What's up, y'all? Movie retrospective.
Yeah, this is a classic.
I'm really, really happy that you guys chose this one, like the Patreon people did in the vote, because I put it in the vote because I bought these for Tom for Christmas.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh please, oh please, oh please. I was like, let them put it. So thankfully, I didn't even cheat. Like, you know what I mean? Like everybody did vote for that one. So these are we're gonna be talking about Psycho 1 through 4.
Yeah, it's Blu-ray. Let me show you. Let me show them too. It's got a slip cover, clear plastic. Mm-hmm. It was a great set. Looks really good. So I give you a review just on the quality. The remaster is really good. I say the only thing that we could knock it for is didn't come with any extras.
There are literally zero extras on any of them. Yeah. Even the original Psycho, there's no commentary track. There's no trailers. There's no nothing.
I thought there'd be extras, but there wasn't. I've seen all these movies. Most of them I forgot. All right, I always remembered the first one.
Yeah.
But going back and seeing them, man, they stand up to the test of time. They were all, the first one's hard to beat because, it's Alfred Hitchcock and it's groundbreaking horror. But the rest of them, Anthony Perkins is involved in all three of them. I think he directed all three of them.
No, he directed the third one.
Just the third one?
Yeah.
And they're all real good. I would say that this series compares very favorably to the Phantasm series in terms of just like quality and world building and the theme behind it,
Yeah, because it just seems
good.
All of them are. It'd be hard for me to rank them, but all of them are worth watching, and all of them bring something a little bit different to the mythology of it, which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah, usually you get 2 good movies, and then movie 3 sucks.
Yeah.
And then the chances of there being a movie 4 being any good is like next to nothing. But in this one, like Phantasm, every movie is very strong. Real strong movie.
And I had forgotten how good they actually all were, because we watched them, I guess, over 2 nights. I think we watched part 1 and part 2, and then the next night we watched like 3 and 4 or something like that. So we've watched them all recently. I will say, I think that, well, actually, I'm almost positive that I saw Psycho 2 before I saw the first one. Like, I was aware of the first one, but I had seen bits of it, but I had never sat, like, through the whole thing, like, straight through. But, so I really, really liked part 2, and then later on, I went back when I was a little bit older and saw the first one.
I saw Psycho 1 in the 70s as a little kid when I was in California. They played it on TV. And it tripped me out. I must have been probably about 7 or 8 when I watched it. I liked it. So it was because I liked the Twilight Zone by that time.
Yeah.
And it kind of reminded me of a long Twilight Zone episode. And I knew nothing about the mom or being stuffed or anything. I didn't know anything about it. And
Spoiler
at
alert.
the end, I was like, whoa!
What?
Whoa! So I kind of had a. It was kind of like seeing it, because I didn't know anything about it. The way I experienced it would have been the way the audience experienced it, and was it 1960?
In 1960,
It came out, because not knowing anything, and no, I liked it, man. It's really good.
Which, that's kind of a bummer. It's like I wouldn't want to go back in time to 1960 because it sucked in a lot of other ways, but I really wish that I had been able to see the first Psycho without knowing what was going to happen. Yeah. Because by the time the 80s rolled around when I ended up seeing the first one, everybody knew like all the plot points in this shit. But it, you have to think too, like how fucking groundbreaking this movie was. We talked about Peeping Tom, directed by Michael Powell, which came out the same year as Psycho. Actually came out about 5 months before, if I'm remembering correctly. And I feel like that was real significant in the kind of development of the slasher genre. But this one was obviously much better known than that one, even though this is less like a slasher than Peeping Tom is. But you have to think the shit that Alfred Hitchcock got for this movie. Well, for one thing, they didn't want him to really make it. He, obviously, if you didn't know, it's based on a novel by Robert Bloch, which he kind of based on Ed Gein a little bit, but kind of, fictionalized it. And Alfred Hitchcock liked it so much that he went to the studio and they were just like, yeah, no, we don't want to make that. They thought it was too lurid, I guess, or it was trashy or whatever.
Little did they know.
I know. And that's the thing. And so Alfred Hitchcock was like, well, fuck you then. I'll buy the rights to the novel myself. And the only way that they would let him make it is if they made it in black and white, which was cheaper. Because obviously in 1960, you know, there were some black and white movies being made, but most people were making shit in color by that time. He's like, I'll make it in black and white. We'll make it with the same crew and on a lot of the same sets as the Alfred Hitchcock Presents show, which I fucking loved growing up.
Yeah, I remember seeing it. It was good.
Yeah. And he's like, so, you know, then we'll let you do it. Now, it's funny because when it came out, it's really strange in hindsight when you know the movie is a classic to the extent that Psycho is a classic, if anything is. And it is so penetrated the popular culture. Even kids nowadays know what the fuck, you know, when somebody makes that noise, like the stabbing noise and the mom dress up as it, everybody knows what that is. And so it's funny to read contemporary reviews of it. Some of the reviews of it were good, but a lot of them were like real mixed or real negative. A lot of people thought, oh, it's too violent. It was like I said, real trashy, or like it wasn't classy, like not up to Alfred Hitchcock's usual high standards. You know, it was too sordid. I know, because it's like, because all of these things that were in it, you know, very famously, I think it was the first mainstream Hollywood American movie that showed a toilet. And actually showed a toilet flushing. She was
toilets aren't supposed to exist.
I know. Yeah. Well, we're not supposed to show them. Yeah. And the funny thing about it is...
You're supposed to take showers.
I know. And the funny thing is that I had forgotten, but the trailer for Psycho had Alfred Hitchcock in it, like, talking about it, and he was in the room, and he stood in front of the toilet and, like, pointed down at it, and it's like, you know, they flush some... Because, you know, it's a plot point in the movie that she tears up that thing with the money amount on it and flushes it down the toilet, and they show it in a close-up. Also... The fact that one of the very first scenes is Janet Leigh and her hunk of man meat, and they're like in a bedroom. They're not married, and she has a bra, and they're like
they're in the same bed.
They're in the same bed, which was really
in a rented room.
Controversial.
Well, that was great though. That was groundbreaking because you weren't supposed to do that. They hit you right in the face. Oh no, we're gonna go there. This is the way the shit really is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're not married, and they're fucking getting it on.
Yeah.
Another thing that in the very beginning that surprised me is that the theme song, I'm looking at it and I'm going, that is the theme song to fucking Herbert West Reanimator.
Well, yeah, that's the... Herbert
West Reanimator is that same damn song. They just accentuated a couple things a little bit more and added a few notes to get that...
Yeah.
You know, that's going on underneath. I think it sounds like a clarinet or something, or an oboe. Going underneath the dam, you know. Yeah. It says, man, it's Herbert West. The Reanimator, I mean, ripped it off directly.
Well, yeah, but they didn't really make a secret about that. Yeah. That's what they were doing. They were doing like a parody of it, sort of.
But yeah, the original's great too.
It is.
Yeah, and then it opens up with like girl committing a crime. She's stealing some money. There's inner dialogue when she's paranoid. You know, the cops are on her tail and. Just great, you know. That was way ahead of its time.
Very morally gray.
Yeah.
Because she's kind of like, I mean, she was the biggest star in the movie.
Yeah.
And that was kind of one of the things, like, Alfred Hitchcock didn't want anybody, he wouldn't let anybody into the theaters, you know, like, later. You couldn't go in late. You had to go in at the beginning. And he wouldn't let critics see it ahead of time, like, so there wouldn't be any spoilers leaking out into the media and shit like that, because he didn't want anyone to know that Janet Leigh, the biggest star in the film, like, dies, like, halfway through the movie, maybe not even halfway.
Yeah.
So he's like, well, I didn't want people coming in and seeing the last part of the film and not seeing Janet Leigh and feeling, like, ripped off or whatever, but he also didn't want to spoil the surprise, because that was something that was not done. I mean, not only was Janet Leigh playing... as I said, a morally gray character who, you know, was fucking around. She was still a good
person, though.
Yeah, but she was still deep down a good person. But she embezzled this money.
Yeah.
You know, obviously she shouldn't have done it, but you couldn't blame her.
She was going to give it back eventually.
Yeah.
But you got to watch the movie. Then there's like another thing that was weird is that when Norman comes into the picture, he's kind of like this. He's a weird guy. He seems nice, but he's kind of like sexually ambiguous. You're not really sure. You know, is this guy straight or is he gay? What's the deal? And then as the story, and early on, he's kind of like already talking weird about his mom. So it's kind of like insinuating that there's some kind of an unnatural it's hinting at like a damn, an incestuous relationship with the mom, and I think the Janet Leigh character was picking up on that.
Yeah.
That there was some kind of sexual abuse going on, which that's fucking in 1960. That shit was just over the fucking. That was just through the roof.
It's interesting too because Anthony Perkins was specifically cast in this because he was being cast against type. At the time that Psycho was made in 1960, Anthony Perkins had been, in some stage plays and he'd been in some films and TV and stuff, but he was primarily known as being kind of like the handsome boy next door type. So that's why Alfred Hitchcock wanted him so bad.
Yeah.
He's like, because I wanted somebody with that kind of boyish, vulnerable quality to be the killer.
Yeah. And he's not really into. He seems like he's not really into women. He's just into his mom, and it's like there's no second. So you go, wait a minute, hold on, what's going on here? And kind of the way he walks and the way his mannerisms are kind of, effeminate, almost kind of like like a twink. I'm gonna say he's kind of a twink, But no, that's not what the deal was. It's just playing with you. The movie's fucking with your mind.
And I think
back in 1960s, it would have really fucked with your mind.
Oh yeah.
And that's where they're getting off with all this other shit, seedy and trashy, because all those subjects would have been considered trashy.
Yeah.
They wouldn't talk
like
about
exploitation
that.
cinema more than serious.
But no,
cinema.
it's a fucking masterpiece, is what it is, and it gave rise, eventually, to the slasher movies.
Yeah.
That's where this came from.
This and Peeping Tom were definitely like the big.
Now we're not going to review each movie in detail. Fucking.
We're just kind of talking about all four of them,
series.
just like in a loose sort of way.
Movie 2 is real strong. It's a strong comeback. It's every bit as good as movie 1. It's a real good response to it. And you can definitely see that it's like that you're dealing with basically a slasher movie. It's just that there's not as many kills in it. It's not really relevant in it as much as, say, like Friday the 13th, but it has like an expensive, well-written Friday the 13th feel to it. You know that somebody's throat could get slashed or something. You know what I mean? Really liked it, movie 2. And Anthony Perkins, first of all, he knocks it out of the park in every movie. He's good in every one of these movies.
Yeah, I will say that, as I said, he was kind of on the cusp of stardom when they made the first one, and he was kind of, it seemed like he was going more along the career path of, as I said, playing kind of boyish, boy next door types. And then when he did Psycho, he started immediately getting typecast, as now he always plays like a crazy person or like a nice dude with a sinister secret or something. Like he always played that.
There was another one he did that I thought was awesome. It was called, what was it? Edge of Sanity?
Edge of Sanity,
yeah. We had to see that one too.
I was looking for that one the other day because I saw it a bunch on cable back in the day.
I remember liking it.
But he got, I guess, like for a time, he talked about getting typecast, and he's like, yeah, it kind of sucked, but he's like, if I had to go back and do it again, I would still do it. It's like, yeah, it sucks being typecast, but he's like,
he
what?
made his name on that though. These are legendary movies, especially the first one. That was groundbreaking.
Now, what I liked about the second one, I kind of feel like they were thinking about, I think they were thinking about doing a sequel to Psycho. Well, it was kind of one of those ideas people threw around. I don't know if Hitchcock really liked the idea or anything like that. But he died in 1980, Alfred Hitchcock did. So then they decided, well, okay, we're going to kind of, we'll get on board with this. Because Robert Bloch, who wrote the original novel, had actually written a novel called Psycho 2. But when the people, like the producers who were thinking about doing a sequel, when they read the book, they hated it. Because they're like, look, basically the book, I haven't read it, but I read like a synopsis of it. What the book Psycho 2 is basically like a parody. It's almost like making fun of the first movie and making fun of the slasher genre. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's almost like a black comedy type of thing. And the producer's like, no, man, we don't want to do that. We want to make like a horror movie that's like a continuation, even though it's this many years later. So they just said, fuck it, we just want a whole new thing. So they got the guy that wrote it, Tom Holland, actually went on much later and much more famously to direct Fright Night, Child's Play, several other movies in that regard. So he was still like kind of a young writer at this point. Now, the guy that directed the second one was Richard Franklin, who was an Australian dude. And he was actually a protege of Alfred Hitchcock and knew everything about Hitchcock, knew everything about all his films. He had worked with him on several things. He also made kind of a very well-regarded Australian film called Road Games, which we should probably review one of these days because it is really
Sounds
good.
familiar. I think I've seen
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. I think I've seen it as well. So he was the one that did the second one. And I really, really like... So it seemed like when they were making the sequel that was what was good about it. It wasn't just a cash grab. You know what I'm saying? It's like, because it was like 22, 23 years later that they made it, because it came out in 1983. And it's weird because at first, when they were talking about doing it, Anthony Perkins, they asked him, hey, do you want to be Norman Bates again? And initially he didn't want to do it. They were actually going to get Christopher Walken.
That'd been good.
Which still would have worked, I think.
Yeah, but there's nothing like the original, though.
Yeah, because it's exactly like he's that person. It's the same dude, and then 22 years later, he gets let out of the mental asylum.
Anthony made this character in the same way that fucking Nimoy made Spock.
Big time.
This character is his character. He created it. You can tell.
Yeah, I mean, I think the movie still would have been okay if someone else had been in the role, but I think there's really no replacement for
Especially
Anthony Perkins being
movies.
in it. Yeah.
After 2 movies, had the third one, if the other 2 didn't have him in it, they would have bombed. But this is one of those rare exceptions where all 4 movies were very good. At least very good.
Yeah. I mean, the second one really totally should not have worked, but it did work.
It did.
I think the writing was really good. The acting was really good. There was some shit where it's interesting, too, because I was watching this big, long retrospective on the second one. Because, like I said, the second one was the first one I saw. So that was like my entry into the Psycho series. They were talking about Meg Tilly, who's in it. And her and Anthony Hopkins did not get along. Meg Tilly did not really know anything about Psycho. She hadn't seen the original movie. And she was kind of an inexperienced, because she was, very new to acting and everything. And I guess she got butthurt because he was giving her acting tips, and he was real exacting about, because it was his character and it was kind of, his story and whatnot. So she was getting kind of annoyed about that. Initially, and here's another thing I didn't know, they were thinking about getting Jamie Lee Curtis for that role.
Oh, that'd have been good too, though.
But then they were like, well, she might be too familiar because of Halloween and because she was in so many other horror movies. And it's we want somebody that's a little less recognizable.
Movie 2 is very much on par with Halloween.
I think so as well.
Very much on par with Halloween. They're all good, all the way up to movie 4. And you would think by the time movie 4 rolled around, no, you can't keep doing this. But no, they did it.
Well, like I said, I like that they did something different with each one. Because, I mean, the second one, if you haven't seen the second one, basically, Norman's been in an asylum this whole time for 22 years. He's let out. And they got the original actress that played Vera Miles, that played Lila, the sister of Janet Leigh's character in the original. So they got her to come back, and she's having a fucking fit.
There he's out
about Norman getting out, because
he goes back to the same house in the same hotel, and he's trying to fucking integrate into society.
Yeah.
And what's funny is that Norman, through all these movies, in a weird way, Norman's the good guy. He's actually the good guy.
I mean, he's not a good guy because he's a murderer, but he's sympathetic.
Yeah, he's doing... some of that shit he doesn't know he's doing it.
Yeah.
Some of it he did know, but he was trying to defend his mom, in his mind. Weird shit. It's a good story. In movie 2, though, he's the good guy.
Yeah, he actually doesn't... Well, until the very end, when he kills somebody...
But you kind of think he had been pushed over the edge by that point.
Right. It wasn't really his fault.
It wasn't really his fault. So it was just a good event. And what I do like about it is that at the end of movie 4, the character was redeemed. Yeah. He's eventually redeemed, which that was good. He had a real good story arc to Norman Bates.
Yeah. I mean, I liked that they did. One thing I wanted to mention while we were talking about the first movie that I think is really funny, that obviously you wouldn't have to put in a movie today. I like at the end of the first movie, they have to have that psychiatrist come in and explain.
Yeah, they mansplain.
The shit about, he had another personality, like dissociative identity disorders, they would call it nowadays. Yeah. And he dressed up in his mother's clothes because somebody asked, is he a transvestite? They're like, no, not really. He's just taking that's not the same thing. So I thought that was really funny. That was another thing that was probably really controversial for 1960, but it's funny that they had to explain that to audiences, because now everybody knows like what that shit is, and they're like, oh yeah, I gotcha.
And then another thing is mansplaining in movies, mansplaining, white-splaining, dark-splaining, whatever you want to call it. That was big in 50s movies,
it really
60s
was.
movies. You need an authority figure to come in and fucking explain to you what it was that
Explain
you just
to
saw.
the audience, yeah.
That goes back to fucking Ed Wood. Ed Wood would fucking mansplain all of his, because that's how he fleshed out his stories. He'd mansplain to you. But
plus
and
that's
then
how
tell
he,
you to trust the government.
That's how he got away with putting really lurid stuff into his movies.
Yeah.
Is because he's like, well, it's a warning to people.
Right.
Like, hey, don't get sucked up into porn. Don't get sucked up into this. But so he's showing all the porn, you know.
But once again, fucking you know, once again, the Psycho knocks fucking puts a different riff on it. Did you notice that the authority figure that's explaining to you what it was you just saw? Did you notice that he was Hispanic?
Oh yeah,
Did you know? That was probably kind of unusual for that time.
It was going
to be a white guy.
Yeah.
Who was the doctor who was going to explain some shit to you? Because of course he's going to know better.
Because
right?
white people know everything.
Well, yeah, he's going to know better, right? It was just the thinking of the '60s, you know what I mean? The '50s and the '60s, you know. Put some white doctor up there to tell us fucking what happened.
No one will believe it if it doesn't come from a white man.
Yeah, you put a black guy up there, they're not going to believe it. But they had a Hispanic guy up there, man, and I was like, oh, okay, man, fucking, yeah, they're cutting edge. This is a cutting edge movie.
It was really, I mean, this was a boundary breaking film in a lot of ways. And seeing it again, because I hadn't seen it for many years, and when we watched it again the other day, I was like, wow, I forgot how, I mean, obviously it's not controversial now, but I'm just saying, putting yourself back into the mindset of 1960, I'm sure like people, but the thing about it is that audiences fucking loved it. There were like lines around the fucking block.
I would have loved
to see that shit.
I would have loved it, especially back in 1960.
Oh yeah.
I saw it in the
everybody was
saw it in the late
about
70s as a little kid, and it was still you can watch it now, and it still holds together.
Oh yeah, and like I said, I think it's still even you know, horror fans that are young, that are in their 20s, that still comes up in like their top 20 horror.
And
movies.
another thing is that what I did like about the writing in the old ones is that they're kind of in a weird mixture of a documentary / Twilight Zone. Everything is very clear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The dialogue is very clear. The story points are very clear. What it's trying to tell you is very clear. And then there's a very clear subtext. There are things that it doesn't say, but it let you know.
Yeah.
It let you know. They didn't say that there was an incestuous relationship going on. But you had to have known.
It implied.
Yeah.
It very, very heavily implied.
Yeah. And in movie 4, it's kind of, it's kind
not
of
kind of. It's just like
show
put
to you
right
what
up
the
in
deal
your face.
was. You know, it doesn't actually show sex, but almost.
But there's some pretty weird shit.
Weird
going
shit,
on
and then when you see the way his weird ass mom was when she was young and everything, you know, she wasn't a rotten old corpse. She was, you know, young, good looking when this was going on, and which kind of made some of the stuff made more sense. She kind of had kind of a mysterious accent. Where was she from?
Well, that's Olivia Hussey. She is. Shit, man.
Was that her real accent?
Yeah, that's how she talks.
Okay.
She's been in tons of movies.
Sounded kind of Italian or something.
I can't remember where she's from.
Yeah, so
she does
Italian,
have a really
Spanish,
weird.
from Spain.
She's probably most famous for being. She was in Romeo and Juliet, like back in what fucking year was that, when she was real young. But she's been in shit tons of stuff.
Right.
But yeah, so
and she was a psycho. She was the psycho, really. The mom was the psycho.
Yeah.
When Norman was young, she's a psycho, and they're living in that house by themselves. And she's fucking sending some mixed ass signals to him and fucked him up.
Yeah, well, like I said, I kind of like that, you know, throughout the whole series, as I said, they make Norman Bates, I mean, he's clearly got problems.
Yeah.
But they do portray him sympathetically, not in a way that excuses what he does.
He's just mentally ill.
But you understand, like, why he does, and you kind of feel sorry for him, because I like that. Even in the first one, they treated him kind of sympathetically, even though he killed a lot of people, and that's bad. But they said there was a reason for him doing it. In the second one...
Well, in the first one, and actually in almost all of them, if you actually were to do the body count, technically it's not him. Well, technically it's him, but he doesn't realize it's him.
Yeah.
It's his mom.
Yeah.
He thinks his mom's doing it.
Yeah.
So, there's only one... No, there was only 2 that he killed.
In his own guys.
In his own guys. There was only 2.
Yeah,
And,
one at the end of the second one and one in the third one.
Was that the third one? Yeah.
Where he killed
that guy was
Jeff
going to kill
Fahey.
him, probably.
Yeah, that you could argue was maybe self-defense.
Yeah. Well, the guy was going to kill him because he realized that Norman thought it was his mom, but this guy knew that it wasn't his mom, that it was him. So,
yeah.
But Norman couldn't accept that it was him killing these women.
Yeah.
He thought it was his mom.
Yeah, because like I said, he dissociated.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the second one, he didn't. I like that they made him. The movie was actually very. I mean, for 1983, was very sympathetic with, how he had this terrible mental illness, but he'd been in the asylum. He'd worked through all the stuff with his doctor. They were letting him back out, and he goes back to the house. He gets a job. They help him out, and a lot of the people in town, like the cop and everything like that, are sympathetic to him. They're like, man, leave him alone. He's done his time. It's like, it sucks. It's shitty what he did, but it's, it's over now. It was a long time ago. And the fact that Lila and the daughter, played by Meg Tilly, Mary, the fact that they're conspiring to make him go crazy again because they want him to be locked up again, kind of pushes him over the edge then. So that's not really his fault, because those two bitches were, I mean, I don't want to say, because Meg Tilly character Mary, she actually does feel bad about it and then tells her mom, hey, knock it the fuck off. But then some people are getting killed, and I like for a long time they leave it kind of ambiguous as to who's killing all these people, because you're like, I'm pretty sure Norman's not doing that shit. But then they find out like later who it is doing it. And it's some other old bat that says, no, I'm your real mom and all this stuff. And then Norman kills her. Yeah. But she was a murderer too. So,
yeah.
I don't know. That one's kind of a wash, I think.
Yeah. He's trying to get rid of evil.
Yeah, I suppose. Now the third one, he actually does go back into the whole psycho thing, where he's dressing up as his mom and killing people. And this one's really interesting. I feel like when I watch other people's reviews of this, the third one usually comes out on the bottom. Like most people say, they're all good, but if you had to rank them, a lot of people don't like the third one just because
the third one is just more of that.
Yeah,
I think about it. So
because it's more like a standard slasher film.
More of that.
Because you definitely have, you have the weird nun character that's played by that chick that was in Mommy Dearest. And she comes there, and then he thinks that she looks like Marion Crane because she's got kind of the same hair and she looks kind of like her and she has the same initials or whatever. So he starts phasing out and thinking that this is her and that she's back from the dead or back to haunt him or whatever. And then some weird kind of shit happens where this chick, the nun, she ran away from the convent after she sort of accidentally, she was going to kill herself, and then she accidentally knocked this other fucking nun off of the fucking bell tower and she splattered or whatever. So it's she took off or they kicked her out or whatever, and then she ends up in the hotel after getting a ride from this rapey motherfucker who
he's gonna be a rock star.
What was his name? Dwayne Duke or something. Yeah. Played by Jeff Fahey.
Which I love that character. I thought that character was cool.
Yeah, he was a scumbag, but he was a good character.
But he fit right in with that movie.
He did, yeah. And so she ends up going to the motel, and interestingly, Norman's gonna kill her. But then she's already beat him to the punch, I guess, because she slit her wrist and she's laying there in the tub. And she's kind of bleeding out and everything, and she sees him standing there with all the woman shit on and with all the knife and everything, and she thinks it's the Virgin Mary. So she starts to think that Norman saved her. You know what I mean? So then he's like, well, obviously I can't kill her now. But then they kind of start hooking up. But then, like I said, Jeff Fahey's character, Dwayne, who's also kind of a rapey shithead, he figures out, he gets a job there because he's on his way to LA and he needs money or whatever. And, so he figures out what's going on with Norman and the corpse and everything. So he is basically going to blackmail Norman. Yeah. So, like I said, and they kind of get in a fight.
Blackmail him out of the land and the hotel and stuff.
Yeah. So it's
hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Really, he was not really. I mean, I didn't really feel bad that he got
he's
killed.
A villain.
Yeah. He's a villain. I mean, I'm not saying that you can just go around killing people all the time, but and Norman actually did, in the guise of his mother in the third one, did actually kill a few people that that were innocent victims, one girl that got kicked out of Dwayne's room and all this other kind of shit.
Yeah, and in each one of these movies, the police take a role too. There's always a cop And there's always the town and the cop.
Yeah.
That always play a role in the movie. They're just good movies, just... It's a really good series. Each movie's very strong. Even the weakest one, which is 3, is still pretty strong.
And Anthony Perkins actually directed that one.
Yeah.
And the cinematography on that one. I think the cinematography on that one is the nicest.
The only reason why I think 3 was a little bit weaker, it comes out more towards the bottom, is just that it's kind of a continuation of 2, really. It's just kind of like more of that.
Yeah,
That's
just more blood.
More of that, yeah. And it's
more characters.
Yeah, but that's not how you would have perceived the movie at the time had you had waited 4 or 5 years for that fucker to come out. Because you'd have been waiting for it to come out. Oh man, part 3's out. Let's see that. You know what I mean? So when you're watching them back to back, you see they're kind of similar in some ways.
Yeah.
Part 4, it went straight up kind of almost action movie, but I liked it, like action horror. It was constantly something happened, but it still had that psychological element of all the other Psycho movies. It's all about somebody's mind being fucked up. It's doing flashbacks. It's showing what the mom and the boy were like when they were young. Just good movie, I think 4 ended it pretty damn well. I don't think that could be ended any better way. I don't think there's a better way.
Yeah, I mean, Psycho 4 the beginning, if I remember correctly, and somebody please correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure that was made for cable TV. I don't think that got a theatrical release, which is kind of a shame.
Really?
But yeah, that was actually quite a good movie. I saw it a lot, like back on cable.
That had some gore in it, though, didn't it?
Yeah, so it must have been made for cable. Yeah. Because, it was made for TV. You couldn't have put all that shit in there. But, because there was some shit in there that, you couldn't put on network TV for sure.
That was about what? Did he say 1990?
1990.
1990? And that was, like, on par with, like, that would have been considered, like, a pretty big budget horror movie for 1990.
Oh, yeah. And it's definitely better than a lot of other ones that I saw that came out that year.
Yeah.
But yeah, so basically, I mean, the frame story is that Norman, he was incarcerated for a time right after the events of part 3. And then he was let out again, or he was on probation, right? He was on probation. He had since married. He ended up marrying a nurse that was taking care of him at the asylum or whatever. And he'd gotten his shit together pretty much. And he decided though that he's going to kill the wife. Like it's kind of consuming him because she got pregnant and he had specifically told her, don't get pregnant because I have something the matter with me and my genetics and I don't want to bring a kid in the world that maybe has the same problem that I have. And she very sneakily, and this was kind of shitty for her to do, I have to say, kind of stopped taking the pill without telling him.
Yeah.
So she could get pregnant, like kind of, accidentally. Which like I said, don't do that to people. That's shitty. But yeah, so she did that and he found out about it and then he got mad and he's called a radio talk show program hosted by CCH Pounder, who I wish she had been in more movies. Maybe she was in a lot of movies, but she was perfect to play a radio DJ because she has that great fucking voice.
She was in several horror movies.
Yeah, I feel like she was. I have to go and look at her filmography because I feel like I saw her a lot.
I was like, oh, she's in a bunch of horror.
And then I couldn't remember what other ones that she had been in, like right around that time period.
Or Jacob's Ladder, maybe, or some shit like that.
Yeah, was it? Shit, man, I can't remember. But yeah, so she played the thing. So they were doing a show about mother killers, and he calls in and starts talking about it. He's like, "Hey, I'm
talking about his upbringing."
And then they go back into flashback. So Henry Thomas plays him as a young kid, and like I said, youngsters nowadays probably know Henry Thomas from Haunting of Hill House on Netflix and Haunting of Bly Manor. He was in that as well. But this was when he was really, really young, like a teenager, and he plays like a young Norman Bates. And like I said earlier, Olivia Hussey plays his psychotic mother.
Yeah.
Holy crap. You can totally see why he ended up the way he ended up.
She's like 4 characters in one.
With a mom like that. She is fucking...
She's over here, and then she's over here, and
she is something else.
So, he doesn't know where the shit'll go blind.
Exactly. And like you said, there's this weird sexual, it's not even an undercurrent, it's a fucking overcurrent. It's a current. It's right there in your face. It's like they're just she's talking about his dick and they're rolling around on the floor together. And, and then she gets mad. Like, she does it and then she laughs and then she's like, what are you doing, you filthy little bastard, and all this other kind of shit. And so I have to say that, like I said, I'm not advocating just murdering people and shit, but the way that her and her boyfriend, because she gets a boyfriend later on, and she's like, oh yeah, we're gonna get married, and he's gonna run the hotel, and blah blah blah. And he was a douche too. Yeah. And then just the way that both of them talked to Norman. Yeah. Was just, and then finally he's like, fuck these mother, I'm just gonna poison their asses.
Well, that's something that a lot of homicides happen every year, everywhere. Okay. The only ones you hear about are the outliers where this shit was fucking bizarre. Yeah. Most of those homicides are kind of understandable when you hear what happened. Doesn't mean it's not a homicide. Doesn't mean it's not murder. Just that it's not that interesting.
Because if you were in the same situation, you're like,
assholes fighting over some chick.
I might have done that too.
Yeah. Picking on some dude, and he says fuck you and blows the dude away. Just shit like that.
So like I said, you can totally... So again, this is another one where Norman is sympathetic because you're seeing him as a kid, you're seeing his upbringing, you're seeing how fucked up it was, and you can't really blame him. I mean, like I said, it's not good, but I'm saying you can't really blame him for
the world isn't good. You can't moralize everything.
Yeah, for poisoning his psycho mom.
The movie's not about moralizing anything, it's just about showing it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of abuse and shit.
And just exploring his psychosis, I guess, but in a way that, like I said, it doesn't say, oh, it's okay that he did that. It's just saying this is why he did that, and you can understand why he did that. And like you said, at the end of the series, I like that they ended it where he kind of comes up to a point where his wife, who he's, like I said, he says through the whole movie that he was going to kill her, and they go back to the house and he is going to kill her, but then she basically comes back to him. She's like, I trust you not to kill me. Like, we've worked through all this. You don't have to do it. And then she says something very interesting too, because she's like, if we have this baby, she's like, well, I count for something too. It's like, I'm a good person. I didn't kill anybody. It's like, maybe the kid will take after me and it'll be fine. But that's not what she says, but it's essentially like that. So she's like, you have to give it a chance. You have to have hope that things are going to work out better. And in the end, he actually does redeem himself by...
he kind of overcomes it.
By overcoming his urge to kill her.
Yeah, because he didn't kill anybody in the fourth one, did he?
No, because the wife was the only one that he was going to kill.
Yeah, he was going to do it, but then he talked himself out of it with her help.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
And then I liked that at the very, very end, right after they faded to black, right before the credits come up, you hear a baby crying. Yeah. So I was like, I guess they left that there just in case they wanted to do, Psycho the Next Generation or whatever. Right. It's like the baby Norman Bates.
Yeah. Now, a bunch of people get killed in part 4, but it's in the past. It's in the flashback.
Yeah. I mean, somebody gets killed in all the movies, but it's interesting how few times, like you said, it's actually Norman doing it. Well, it's actually Norman in his own persona. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people get killed with him dressed up like mom, especially in the third one. Yeah. But, other than that, like you said, I think I can only remember him being himself. I think it was 2 people.
No, 4. His mom also and the boyfriend.
Yeah, that's right.
But he did that in the past. So
that was in the past.
So he killed 4. And he was a minor at that time, so he wouldn't have been convicted as an adult anyway.
That's true.
He was a kid.
That's true. And maybe, I don't know if you could do it back then. But
probably could have got off because of the abuse.
Because of the extenuating circumstance, that's what I was going to say. Because, I mean, that's got to count for something. They might still put you in a hospital and shit, but I do feel like that. But yeah, so other than that, he killed Emma Spool at the end of 2. Yeah. Who was that old bat that came to the house that worked at the diner with him and said, hey, I'm your real mom.
He killed a wannabe rock star.
And he killed that guy, but that guy was a dick.
Yeah, and he was trying to kill him at the time.
Yeah, they were fighting. It wasn't like it was a
car,
It wasn't like a a thing. But now he was gonna kill the nun girl. If she hadn't been laying in there with her wrists all slashed, he would have killed her. But it just kind of happened.
No, he was in his mom's form.
Oh yeah, that's right.
The mom was going to do it,
and that was
And when the mom saw it, it left the body, and it just left Norman standing there.
Yeah, going, why am I wearing this?
He snapped too. Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm really, really glad, like I said, that you guys picked for us to discuss these movies. I know it was like I don't want to go too much into all the technical details and shit like that, but I will say that Anthony Perkins has a son, if you didn't know, named Oz Perkins, who is also a horror director in his own right. He has directed I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House. He directed The Blackcoat's Daughter. He directed Gretel and Hansel. He's done a few other ones.
Gretel,
so
the one that we saw?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I've seen all three of those.
Yeah, we reviewed that movie. I said I liked the movie. I wish there was just more of that witch in it.
Yeah. I kind of wish there was more.
I would have gotten rid of the Gretel and Hansel.
It's like, let's just have the movie about the witch.
Just the witch.
Let's just watch the witches.
The witch, right? Yeah. I think I'd have had that thing edited down to about 70% witch. Because you know what I mean.
You always need more witch.
Yeah, just a bunch of fucking witches.
But his other two movies, like I said, I Am the Pretty Thing and The Blackcoat's Daughter, are excellent. Like if you really like those like really creepy slow burn type of shit, he's really into that. And I really, really like those two. I liked those two a lot better than Gretel. I liked Gretel and Hansel, it was alright, but I liked the other two like a lot better. Yeah. But yeah, so he's kind of carrying on the work or whatever, because as I said, Anthony Perkins died a while back. But yeah, so I'm really glad you guys picked this one, because I can't believe we haven't talked about Psycho, because it's such a fucking classic. Yeah. But that's probably why. But then, when I got... It's weird because we were talking... I don't even remember why we were talking about Psycho, but before Christmas sometime, and I was like, oh, look, they have this... the 4-volume set, and I haven't seen all 4 movies in such a long time. I'd seen all of them at various times on cable.
I wasn't sure, but as I watched them, I'd seen them all.
Yeah,
I just didn't remember much. I
remembered the first one, obviously. I remembered 2, and I remembered 4. I didn't remember 3, like what happened, but then when we started watching it, it all came back to me. And I remembered like bits of dialogue and everything.
Yeah, I really remembered seeing part 2 and liking it.
I think I saw 2 the most.
The other 2, I remembered seeing them and didn't remember disliking them, so I just remembered that they were probably okay. But seeing them just past couple of days ago, no, they're all real good.
Yeah, they are totally all worth watching. It's like there's not a dud in the bunch.
That's
seriously.
like one of the best 4-movie, or that's one of the best series for horror. I'll put that right there with.
Oh yeah, big time.
Right there with Phantasm, which Phantasm is a great series. There isn't a weak movie in Phantasm.
I loved every single Phantasm movie.
Yeah, and then you can't say that for.
And what is there? 5 of them? 6
yeah,
of them?
And you can't really say that for Halloween. I liked it up till 3. Past 3, and then I didn't really.
And 3 doesn't even really count as part of the series because it's its own thing.
Right, and
1 and 2 were good.
Friday the 13th, and then really you're kind of only looking like the fucking first 4, 3, 4. And then after that...
The 5th one was good. No, the 4th one. Which one was Final Chapter?
I don't remember.
That one was good. They're fun for,
For what they are.
For what they are, but they're kind of very samey.
Yeah. Psycho is kind of a cut above in terms of quality and acting and just atmospherics. But it still gives you some slasher scenes. It's good. Real good.
And they, like I said, they do something different each time, kind of. 2 and 3 are kind of similar, but they, 3 kind of expands it out a little bit because there's a lot more characters there.
And the same actors, so you don't have to worry about people playing Norman that aren't Norman.
It's the same guy.
Same locations, or at least it seems to be the same location.
It is, but everything is a set like that. Okay. The thing about it is the house obviously is on the Universal backlot. I think what they did is it was at one place in the backlot, but they ended up like taking the whole house down and moving it to another place on the backlot. So, but they found, interestingly, for the second one, they found a shit ton of props from the original movie. So a lot of the shit that's in the house was the same shit that was in the first one because they found it. Yeah. And also, they had to rebuild the hotel because the hotel from the first one had been destroyed. So for the second movie, they just rebuild it exactly the same. Yeah. And then in the background, they just did matte paintings because, in real life, you can see, like, the rest of the Universal backlot. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, behind. And interestingly, too, I think in part 2, when they go in the town, which I think, what is it called? Fairvale or whatever it's called. I think it's a fictional town in California. And when they go in the town, I'm pretty sure that's the same square that they used in, like, Back to the Future and all that other kind of stuff. So it's all a set. Everything is on a set.
Well, the versions we have here, all 4 movies, the scores, all great. 10. Edits. The edits on all of them are tight. There isn't any bad edits on any of them. They're all product of their time, but they're all like cut top notch for their time. So I give that 10 out of 10 also. Acting's pretty much 10 out of 10. It's to meet a certain tone that each movie was looking for. just no complaints. You know what I mean? Just excellent. That's an
Yeah,
excellent series.
every single one
Excellent
of them
series.
is enjoyable. I think I forgot to mention that Mick Garris directed the fourth one, so that's
Okay.
why. So you had Alfred Hitchcock, Richard Franklin, Anthony Perkins, and
Yeah.
what I just said, Mick Garris.
Yeah.
Like directed all. So you got like, you know, kind of heavy hitters working.
Yeah.
And like I said, the second one was written by Tom Holland, who went on to do Fright Night and Child's Play.
Yeah,
and a
and
bunch of other
the
ones.
Perkins direction in movie 3 is good too. It's not that, you know what I mean. The reason why it falls on the bottom of him is just because all the other ones are just so strong. It's not a weak movie. Fucking real strong.
I mean, I had
Some people might even switch the order. That's just
Yeah,
the way
and
that, just to taste.
It's not, it's
Yeah.
not one of those things where obviously one of them is like a
Yeah.
million times better than the other ones, and
no.
like you're gonna fight people if they don't like those.
Right,
I mean,
yeah.
any of these, if you put these in any order, I would
They'd
not
all
be.
be good.
I would
yeah.
not be offended.
You're
in this
ordering
list.
them to taste.
Yeah.
And they're all real good. They're all excellent.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I'm really glad that I got you that set.
Yeah,
like
it's good.
the only thing, like I said, the only shitty thing is they have zero extras, and I'm
Yeah.
talking nothing
Yeah, I'd like to have
on any of
a
them.
making of would be good, or maybe like visiting with some of the surviving actors, all that shit with stories of what happened. All that would have made it a lot better. But hey, they don't have it.
Yeah.
They just
I mean, shit, I watched on YouTube, I can't remember the name of the channel, but some guy on YouTube did like an hour and 15-minute retrospective on the second one mostly, but he talked about the first one and stuff too, and it was like really good. It was like really informative. So I don't know if he's done it for all the other ones as well. But Cinemassacre did one talking about all four of them, but it's pretty brief. Like he just kind of goes through each one and
they say the same thing we were saying.
so it's pretty much
Pretty
that he was like, he said the same thing where 3 was probably his least favorite, but they were all good and they're all worth watching. So, you know. But yeah, so check it out, this little Psycho collection. I'll put it in the I'll put it in our Amazon storefront if you want to get it. Like I said, if you want extras, you probably got to get them somewhere else. But it's nice having all 4 movies, and the transfers are nice and everything like that. So that'll do it for this retrospective 4 whole movies in one show. You guys got extra shit. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.